I found out my wife had a second family, and she knew about mine. I used to believe I was a decent man. Not great, not heroic, just decent in the boring suburban way. I paid my taxes, returned shopping carts, and pretended to listen when my coworkers talked about CrossFit. I had a wife, Claire, for 9 years. We had a dog, a mortgage, and a mutual agreement to avoid deep conversations after 9 p.m. because we were always tired. If someone had asked me then whether I thought my life could explode overnight, I'd have laughed and said, "Buddy, the wildest thing I do is switch toothpaste brands." The thing about explosions, though, is that they don't announce themselves. They start with something stupid. In my case, it was a sock. A tiny sock. Pink. Definitely not mine. Definitely not Claire's. I found it wedged between the couch cushions while looking for the remote. I stared at it for a full minute, waiting for logic to arrive. It didn't. Claire didn't own anything pink. We didn't have kids. The dog couldn't wear socks unless we'd entered a very dark chapter of pet ownership. When I asked Claire about it, she didn't panic. She didn't stutter. She smiled and said, "Huh, weird." Then she took the sock and walked away. That should have been my first clue. Claire panicked about everything. She once apologized to a mannequin for bumping into it. But this? Nothing. Calm. Surgical. I told myself I was imagining things, because denial is cheaper than therapy. A week later, the phone message happened. I was doing laundry when Claire's phone buzzed. Again, I wasn't snooping. It was face up, glowing like a confession. "Don't forget Lily's recital. She'll be crushed." Lily. A name I had never heard before. Not a coworker, not a cousin, a kid name. The kind of name people give to children who own glitter. That night, I'd barely slept. My brain ran simulations like a deranged FBI profiler. Maybe Claire was helping a friend. Maybe she was lying to someone else about having kids to get out of work. Maybe I was having a stroke. The next morning, I decided to follow her. I hated myself for it, which I felt made me morally superior to people who enjoy. I sat frozen in my car, watching my wife laugh with children she had apparently been raising while I argued with her about dish soap brands. I don't remember driving home. I remember dissociating so hard, I questioned whether I'd ever existed at all. When Claire came back that night and asked how my day was, I said, "Fine," and tasted blood because I bit my tongue so hard it felt like justice. That night, I packed a bag. Not because I had a plan, but because my body needed movement. I drove somewhere I shouldn't have needed to drive to explain anything. A small house across town. A life I told myself was temporary. Emily opened the door, smiled, and said, "You're early. The baby finally fell asleep." And that's when the universe laughed. Holding my daughter felt like being punched and hugged at the same time. Emily looked at me like she always did, warm, tired, hopeful in a way that made me feel like a fraud wearing a human suit. I sat on the couch surrounded by evidence of responsibility. Bottles, toys, a calendar with pediatrician appointments circled in red. This wasn't a secret fling. This was a life, a real one. And somehow I had two. Emily asked what was wrong, because of course she did. I looked like I'd just seen my own ghost steal my car. I tried to lie, failed instantly. Everything spilled out. Claire, the kids, the man, the suburb. Emily listened without interrupting, which made it worse. When I finished, she said quietly, "She already knows." My stomach dropped so fast I swear it hit the floor. Claire had come by weeks earlier. I confronted Claire that night. No screaming, just two people too tired to pretend anymore. She admitted everything. She said she didn't want to lose stability. I admitted I didn't want to give up the version of myself that felt needed. We weren't villains. That was the worst part. We were cowards, comfortable ones. The weeks that followed were chaos. Emily cried, Claire cried. Mark, cargo shorts, broke a chair and then apologized to everyone like a confused Labrador. The kids sensed everything. They always do. Lawyers got involved. My life turned into meetings about feelings and assets. I developed insomnia and a caffeine dependency that could legally qualify as a personality trait. One night, Claire asked, "If we had been honest from the start, do you think this could have worked?" I didn't answer, because the truth was uglier. We didn't want honesty. We wanted convenience without consequences. We wanted to be loved without choosing. The decision came quietly. No, life didn't magically improve after the truth came out. Reddit lies about that part. There was no instant relief, just cleanup. Messy, exhausting cleanup. Therapy sessions where I learned new words for guilt. Emily and I fought, not about infidelity, but about dishes and sleep deprivation and trust that had to be rebuilt from rubble. Months later, things stabilized. Not perfect, real. I learned how to be present instead of split, how to live one life without constantly checking the clock for another. Sometimes I'd see Claire at school events. We'd nod. Once we laughed about how insane it all was. Not proudly, just humanly. The irony still gets me. We hid everything to protect people we loved, and all we did was delay the damage, stretch it out, multiply it. If there's a moral here, it's not don't cheat. It's simpler and harder. Choose. Because if you don't, life will choose for you, and it will not